The sound of my nephew's footsteps froze me mid-motion, my heart slamming against my ribs like a trapped animal seeking escape. I never imagined my darkest moment would unfold on a Tuesday afternoon with sunlight streaming through half-closed blinds, illuminating everything I desperately wanted to hide. His innocent laughter from moments earlier still echoed down the hallway, as time suspended between heartbeats, the universe shrinking to just his widening eyes and my exposed vulnerability. The bathroom door creaked wider, revealing my compromised position, fingers still trembling where they shouldn't have been, wedding ring catching light like an accusation. Family secrets don't dissolve. They explode, leaving shrapnel embedded in everyone close enough to witness the detonation. What followed in those electric seconds between discovery and reaction would redefine boundaries I never thought I'd cross, shattering the carefully constructed facade of our perfect family. You think you know shame until you're caught in your most private moment by someone who trusts you, someone whose respect you never realized mattered until you watched it evaporate. Before judging my story, ask yourself, what desperate loneliness might drive you to risk everything for a moment of release? Like, share, and subscribe to Ari True Stories if you've ever wondered how quickly your life could unravel from one impulsive decision. My confession might save you from the suffocating weight of carrying secrets that poison every relationship they touch, leaving nothing but hollow shells where love once flourished. The bathroom tiles pressed cold against my bare feet as I scrambled for dignity, the contrast shocking against my flushed skin burning with humiliation. His silhouette remained frozen in the doorframe, my sister's son, 24, and suddenly witness to an intimacy no family member should ever share. Tyler. The words evaporated from my tongue, inadequate against the magnitude of what had just transpired between us. Sometimes life doesn't give you elegant explanations or carefully crafted excuses, just raw, unfiltered moments that expose who you've become when no one was looking. My trembling fingers clutched the towel tighter, as our eyes locked in the mirror, reflecting twin expressions of shock that would evolve into something far more complicated. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, counting down seconds until someone would need to acknowledge what had happened and what might happen next. Some moments change families forever, leaving nothing but scorched earth where trust once grew abundantly. Before you look away in judgment, consider how isolation can warp even the strongest moral compass, when touch becomes a distant memory and validation feels like oxygen you're denied. This isn't a story about justification. It's about human frailty and the devastating ripple effects when boundaries collapse under the weight of neglect. Subscribe to Ari True Stories so you're never blindsided by the truth others keep hidden, because the most dangerous secrets often hide behind the most perfect family portraits. The bathroom incident with Tyler wasn't born from nowhere. It grew from years of emotional drought in a marriage that had withered to mere coexistence. James and I had become masters of polite avoidance, navigating our sprawling suburban home like ghosts passing through separate dimensions, connected only by mortgage payments and holiday photographs. Our bedroom had transformed from a sanctuary of intimacy to a cold battleground of unspoken resentments and separate sleeping schedules. His side of the bed remained pristine most nights, his law firm demanding 60-hour weeks, while I wandered our empty nest, touching photo frames of children now grown and gone to college. December's arrival had brought the usual transformation: twinkling lights adorning our 3-story colonial, garlands spiraling down banisters, and the scent of cinnamon masking the emotional void beneath our picture-perfect holiday facade. The Christmas tree stood magnificent in our bay window, ornaments reflecting fractured light much like our fractured connection, beautiful from a distance but hollow at its core. My sister Lisa arrived first for the holiday gathering, her analytical eyes immediately cataloging the subtle changes in my appearance. The weight loss, the forced smile, the nervous habit of twisting my wedding ring. "You look tired, Sarah," she whispered while hanging her coat, her words carrying layers of concern I wasn't prepared to address. Tyler entered last, bringing a gust of winter air and youthful energy that instantly transformed the stifling atmosphere of our home. His university stories filled dinner conversation gaps that James and I had long stopped attempting to bridge, his laughter drawing genuine smiles I hadn't worn in months. I caught James watching me from across the table as I leaned forward, captivated by Tyler's animated description of his graduate research project. The flicker of something, jealousy perhaps, or simple curiosity, vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the familiar blank expression he wore like armor. Our teenage children, Mia and Ethan, remained absorbed in their phones, occasionally glancing up to offer monosyllabic contributions before retreating into their digital worlds. Their indifference to the family gathering stung less than it should have, that emotional distance mirroring what their father had modeled for years. The kitchen became my refuge that evening, hands busy with dishes while my mind wandered dangerous paths, questioning choices made decades earlier. Tyler appeared beside me, sleeves rolled up and hands extended for wet plates, his presence filling the space with an energy that made me acutely aware of my own body for the first time in years. "Aunt Sarah, you always seem to be taking care of everyone else who takes care of you?" His innocent question landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading through my carefully constructed composure. The genuine concern in his eyes offered a mirror reflecting my invisibility, suddenly making me visible in ways that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. Our fingers brushed during the simple exchange of a serving platter, the brief contact sending electricity through nerve endings I'd forgotten could still respond to human touch. I stepped back quickly, nearly dropping the crystal bowl, my reaction drawing curious glances from Lisa across the room, her maternal instincts sensing shifts in atmosphere I desperately needed to conceal. After dinner, the family migrated to the living room where board games were stacked beside crystal decanters of amber liquor catching firelight. James poured himself a third whiskey before announcing an early retirement, citing case preparations as he disappeared upstairs without meeting my eyes or acknowledging the gathering he'd abandoned. "Monopoly or Scrabble?" Tyler asked, his enthusiasm filling the vacuum James had left, his fingers brushing game boxes while maintaining eye contact with me rather than his cousins. The simple question carried unexpected weight, as though he were really asking something entirely different, something about choices and consequences neither of us fully understood yet. Mia and Ethan predictably declined participation, mumbling excuses about Netflix shows and Instagram posts before retreating to their respective digital sanctuaries. Their departure left an intimate triangle, Lisa, Tyler, and me, seated around the coffee table with Scrabble tiles between us and conversation flowing easier with each glass of Cabernet. "Triple word score," I announced triumphantly, placing desire across the board and immediately regretting my unconscious word choice. Tyler's eyebrows raised slightly as he calculated my points, his pen lingering on the score pad while something unspoken passed between us, a current neither acknowledged but both distinctly felt. Lisa yawned dramatically around midnight, her maternal instincts apparently dulled by wine as she suggested Tyler help me clean up while she sought her guest room. Her departure shifted the atmosphere instantly, the house suddenly feeling smaller, more intimate, as though the walls themselves were breathing in rhythm with our heightened awareness. "I've always loved this house," Tyler commented, gathering game pieces while I collected wine glasses, his voice lower than necessary in the empty room. His observation prompted me to see my home through fresh eyes, not as the mausoleum of a failing marriage but as a space where possibilities still existed, where life might yet be lived rather than merely survived. The kitchen lights cast shadows across Tyler's features as he leaned against the counter, watching me load the dishwasher with movements that suddenly felt self-conscious. "You deserve better than this, Aunt Sarah," he said softly, the familial title contrasting sharply with the decidedly unfamiliar intensity in his gaze. My wedding ring caught on a crystal glass, the sharp clink drawing both our attention to the symbol I'd worn for 23 increasingly hollow years. "Better than what?" I challenged, straightening to my full height, suddenly defensive yet desperately curious about what this young man saw that others including myself had stopped seeing long ago. "Better than being invisible," Tyler replied, stepping forward to take the glass from my trembling hands, his fingers deliberately brushing mine in a touch that lingered beyond propriety. The simple contact ignited nerve endings, long dormant, sending warmth cascading through my body like a dam breaking after years of drought, flooding places I'd forgotten could feel anything at all. I stepped backward instinctively, bumping against the refrigerator as family photos held by magnets fluttered to the floor between us. We both knelt simultaneously to retrieve them, our heads nearly colliding, his cologne sandalwood, and something uniquely him enveloping me in a cloud that made rational thought increasingly difficult to maintain. I should go upstairs, I whispered, photos clutched to my chest like a shield. Yet my feet remained rooted to the kitchen tile. His proximity created a gravitational pull I struggled against, my body betraying my mind's desperate warnings about boundaries and consequences, and lines that, once crossed, could never be redrawn. Tyler nodded, but made no move to create distance, instead reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear, his touch feather-light yet burning against my skin. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd met differently, if you weren't my aunt, if circumstances were different, he murmured, voicing dangerous thoughts that had flickered at the edges of my consciousness. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed one, breaking the spell momentarily as reality reasserted itself through the familiar sound. This conversation never happened, I stated firmly, placing the photos on the counter and moving toward the doorway, desperate to escape the magnetic pull threatening my moral compass. But it did happen, Tyler countered, remaining where he stood yet somehow still holding me in place with just his words. His statement hung between us, undeniable and transformative, acknowledging that regardless of what physical lines remained uncrossed, something fundamental had already shifted between us that could never be undone. I paused at the threshold, one hand gripping the doorframe as though it might anchor me to propriety and prevent me from drifting into uncharted waters. "Good night, Tyler," I managed, my voice steadier than the chaotic drumming of my heart, my eyes fixed forward rather than risking a backward glance that might crumble my resolve. Sleep evaded me that night as I lay beside James's empty side of the bed, replaying kitchen moments while guilt and longing waged war beneath my ribs. The digital clock displayed 3:17 a.m. when I heard soft footsteps in the hallway pause briefly outside our bedroom door, before continuing toward the guest bathroom, the simple sound of Tyler's movement sending electricity through my veins. Morning arrived with deceptive normalcy, pancake batter whisked in ceramic bowls, coffee percolating, holiday music streaming through kitchen speakers. I maintained careful distance from Tyler, focusing on breakfast preparations, while Lisa chatted about Christmas shopping plans, unaware of the seismic shifts occurring beneath the mundane surface of family routine. James appeared briefly, grabbing coffee in his travel mug before announcing a full day at the office despite the holiday week. His perfunctory kiss landed near my cheek rather than on it, the gesture mechanical and devoid of connection. Yet it sent a fresh wave of guilt crashing through me as Tyler witnessed the hollow exchange from across the kitchen island. "I thought we might all visit the Christmas market downtown," Lisa suggested, oblivious to the undercurrents swirling around her as she spread jam on toast. The proposed family outing created immediate panic, hours navigating crowded market stalls while maintaining appropriate distance from Tyler seemed an impossible challenge for my fraying self-control. "Actually, I have terrible migraines starting," I lied, pressing fingers to my temple while avoiding Tyler's knowing gaze. The fabricated excuse tasted bitter on my tongue, the first of what I feared might become many deceptions if I couldn't regain ethical footing on this increasingly slippery slope. Lisa's disappointment was evident, but short-lived as she recruited Mia and Ethan instead, promising hot chocolate and holiday shopping. Their departure left the house in sudden, dangerous silence, Tyler and me alone with unspoken possibilities hanging between us like invisible threads pulling tighter with each passing moment. I missed the first warning signs that morning, the way I unconsciously changed into a more flattering sweater after they left, how I found reasons to move through rooms where Tyler might be reading or watching television. That day, with its seemingly innocent beginning, would alter the foundation of our family forever, leaving nothing and no one unchanged by its end. With the house emptied of everyone except Tyler and me, I retreated to my home office, fingers trembling as I unlocked the bottom drawer containing my leather-bound journal. The pages chronicled years of slow emotional starvation entries, evolving from hopeful suggestions for rekindling romance to resigned acceptance of a marriage existing only on paper. My pen hovered over a blank page as I struggled to articulate the dangerous current now pulling me toward emotional infidelity, if not worse. "What kind of woman feels this way about her nephew?" I scrawled before immediately scratching out the words, horrified to see my thoughts materialized in permanent ink. The wedding photo on my desk mocked me. Younger versions of James, and me gazing at each other with genuine adoration, his eyes reflecting a love that had somehow evaporated without dramatic catalyst. I turned the frame face down, the simple action carrying the weight of surrender, acknowledging what I'd been denying for years, that perhaps some marriages weren't worth the sacrifice of remaining in them. Footsteps in the hallway sent me scrambling to return the journal to its hiding place, heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped animal. Tyler appeared in the doorway with 2 steaming mugs, his thoughtful gesture of bringing coffee highlighting how long it had been since anyone had performed even simple acts of consideration for me. "I thought you might need this," he offered, placing the mug on my desk while maintaining careful distance, as though we'd silently established new boundaries after last night's charged exchange. His consideration only intensified my confusion. This wasn't some predatory advance, but genuine connection, making the moral lines increasingly difficult to discern through the fog of emotional hunger. I accepted the coffee without meeting his eyes, focusing instead on the steam rising between us, like the unspoken words neither dared vocalize. "Thank you," I managed, the simple phrase carrying layers of meaning beyond gratitude for caffeine. Appreciation for seeing me, for the momentary alleviation of crushing loneliness that had become my constant companion. "I've been thinking about what almost happened last night," Tyler ventured, settling into the chair across from my desk rather than retreating after delivering coffee. His directness startled me. I'd expected mutual pretense, the polite fiction that nothing had shifted between us, not this brave confrontation of the elephant now occupying every room we shared. My wedding ring caught the winter sunlight streaming through the office window, sending fractured rainbows across the desk between us. The symbol that once represented eternal commitment now felt like a shackle binding me to a contract, whose terms had changed without my consent, from partnership to coexistence, from passion to politeness. "I've been married to your uncle for 23 years, I stated flatly, as though the duration alone justified continuing the emotional desert my life had become. The words emerged as a shield rather than an answer, deflecting his implied question while avoiding the truth neither of us could unhear, that something profound had awakened between us that defied conventional categorization. Tyler leaned forward, elbows on knees, his gaze unwavering, despite my attempt to erect barriers between us. "I'm not asking about your marriage certificate. I'm asking about you, Sarah, the woman behind the titles of wife and aunt and mother," he clarified, dropping the familial honorific for the first time. His use of my name without prefix sent electricity racing along my spine, transforming me from relative to woman in 5 dangerous letters. I stood abruptly, moving to the window to create distance, watching neighborhood children building snowmen while my internal landscape shifted like tectonic plates beneath seemingly solid ground. "I don't know who that woman is anymore," I confessed to the glass, breath creating fog that obscured the winter scene beyond. The admission cost something precious, the carefully maintained facade of having everything under control, of being the perfect wife and mother despite the hollow core at my center. Tyler's reflection appeared beside mine in the window, his presence both comforting and terrifying as he stood close enough for warmth, but not touching. "I see her clearly, intelligent, compassionate, creative, trapped in circumstances that stopped nurturing her soul years ago," he observed, his assessment cutting through layers of self-deception. "I'd built for survival." Tears formed without permission, the first I'd allowed myself in months of stoic endurance. "Even if you're right, it changes nothing about our situation, or the impossibility of whatever this is," I whispered, gesturing vaguely between us while maintaining eye contact through our reflections rather than turning to face him directly. "Impossible doesn't mean wrong," Tyler countered, his philosophy professor voice emerging as he challenged my black and white thinking. His words created dangerous permission, a pathway through moral certainty toward a gray area where connection might matter more than convention, where happiness could potentially outweigh obligation. I turned from the window, needing to establish physical distance from his intoxicating proximity. "I should start lunch preparations before everyone returns," I announced, retreating to familiar domestic territory, where roles remained clear and temptation could be channeled into chopping vegetables rather than exploring forbidden emotional landscapes. Tyler nodded, but didn't immediately follow, giving me space that somehow felt more intimate than pursuit would have been. His respect for my boundaries only intensified my awareness of him, not as predator or even pursuer, but as someone offering choice after years of my operating on autopilot, following scripts written by societal expectations rather than authentic desire. The kitchen provided no sanctuary, as memories of last night's charged encounter permeated every corner. I aggressively chopped onions, welcoming the sting of tears that provided plausible deniability for the emotional storm brewing behind my ribs. The rhythmic knife work grounded me temporarily in physical sensation rather than the dangerous territory of what-ifs and might-have-beens. The wedding album lay open on the coffee table when I entered the living room with sandwiches hours later, Tyler clearly having discovered it during my kitchen retreat. "You looked happy here," he observed without accusation, finger hovering over a candid reception photo capturing James whispering something in my ear, my expression reflecting genuine joy long since extinguished. "We were," I acknowledged, setting the lunch tray down and carefully closing the album without looking at the images that now felt like artifacts from a stranger's life. The simple past tense spoke volumes, not "we are" but "we were," a linguistic admission of what my heart had known for years, but my mind refused to fully acknowledge. Tyler accepted the sandwich without comment, respecting the boundary I'd re-established through domestic routine and physical distance. "What would you do if you were truly free to choose your path forward?" he asked, after several minutes of silence, the question landing like a stone in still water, ripples disturbing everything in their expanding circles. The hypothetical scenario he presented unlocked a door I'd kept firmly shut, dreams abandoned for practicality, passion sacrificed for stability, desires suppressed for propriety. "I'd write again," I admitted, the long dormant ambition emerging unexpectedly from a place I thought had atrophied completely after years of neglect. "The half-finished manuscript in your desk drawer?" Tyler inquired, revealing observation more detailed than I'd realized, his attention to my life more comprehensive than my own husband's had been in years. His question acknowledged parts of me I'd buried so deeply I sometimes forgot they existed. The writer, the dreamer, the woman with ambitions beyond maintaining a perfect home. The sound of car doors slamming in the driveway shattered our bubble of intimate conversation, reality intruding with the return of family. "This conversation never happened," I stated for the second time in 24 hours, gathering lunch plates with trembling hands as voices approached the front door. Tyler's fingers brushed mine as he helped clear evidence of our private lunch, the brief contact sending electricity through nerve endings. "I'd forgotten could still respond, but it did happen, Sarah," he countered again, his repetition creating bookends around a transformation neither of us could reverse. Acknowledgement that regardless of what physical lines remained uncrossed, something fundamental had already shifted that could never be undone. The family's return transformed the house into a bustling holiday tableau, with Lisa distributing shopping bags while Mia and Ethan argued over control of the television remote. I slipped into hostess mode with practiced ease, brewing fresh coffee and arranging Christmas cookies on the antique platter inherited from James's mother, all while maintaining careful distance from Tyler's magnetic presence. Dinner preparation provided welcome distraction, the methodical chopping and measuring creating a rhythm that temporarily drowned the dangerous thoughts swirling beneath my composed exterior. Tyler appeared in the kitchen doorway with an empty water glass, his casual "need help" carrying layers of meaning that sent heat crawling up my neck despite the 6 feet of tile floor separating us. "You could chop these vegetables," I suggested, sliding a cutting board toward him while ensuring our fingers wouldn't brush during the exchange. The simple domestic task created an illusion of normalcy as we worked in tandem, establishing a synchronized rhythm that felt disturbingly natural, as though we'd been cooking together for years, rather than minutes. Lisa wandered in, eyebrows rising slightly at the sight of her son wielding a knife beside me with comfortable familiarity. "Since when do you cook, Tyler?" she asked with maternal surprise, her innocent question highlighting how quickly we'd established an intimacy that others could sense even without understanding its nature. "Aunt Sarah's teaching me her secrets," he replied, the double entendre causing me to nearly slice my finger as the knife faltered in my suddenly trembling hand. His choice of words, deliberate or unconscious, hung between us like smoke, visible only to those already aware of the fire burning beneath seemingly innocent interactions. Evening brought board games and mulled wine. The family gathered in the living room while James remained conspicuously absent, his text message about case complications requiring no response after years of similar excuses. The space beside me on the sofa remained empty until Tyler casually filled it, his thigh occasionally brushing mine as he reached for game pieces, each contact sending electricity through nerve endings. I'd forgotten could still respond. Truth or dare? Mia suggested after Monopoly concluded, her teenage enthusiasm for the juvenile game meeting groans from Ethan but curious consideration from Tyler. The proposed game created immediate panic. Truth felt dangerous with so many secrets, suddenly crowding my consciousness, while dare risked actions I couldn't trust myself to refuse if properly challenged. I'm too old for teenage games, I demurred, gathering empty wine glasses as an excuse to create distance from the dangerous proposition. Tyler's eyes followed my retreat to the kitchen, his gaze a tangible weight between my shoulder blades as I escaped the potential minefield of revelations the innocent game might trigger. The grandfather clock chimed 11 as family members gradually drifted upstairs, leaving Tyler and me alone in the kitchen under the pretense of final cleanup. You avoided the game, he observed, loading the dishwasher while maintaining careful distance, as though we'd established invisible boundaries neither dared cross despite the magnetic pull between us. Some truths aren't meant for family game night, I acknowledged, wiping countertops with unnecessary vigor, focusing on removing wine rings rather than meeting his gaze. The simple statement opened a door neither of us could close. Acknowledgement that truths existed between us. Unspoken but increasingly undeniable as hours passed in this strange limbo of attraction and restraint. If we had played, what truth would you have been most afraid to tell? Tyler asked, closing the dishwasher and leaning against it, his posture casual while his question penetrated every defense I'd constructed. His direct approach stripped away pretense, forcing confrontation with feelings I'd been desperately trying to categorize as temporary insanity rather than genuine emotional connection. The kitchen suddenly felt airless, the space between us charged with possibilities both terrifying and exhilarating, as I considered his question, that I've forgotten what it feels like to be truly seen by someone. I finally admitted, the confession emerging as barely more than a whisper, yet carrying the weight of years of emotional isolation. Tyler crossed the invisible boundary we'd maintained, his steps deliberate as he moved toward me, until barely inches separated us. I see you, Sarah, he stated simply, the declaration stripping away titles and roles and societal expectations, reducing us to simply man and woman standing at the edge of a precipice neither had planned to approach. My back pressed against the refrigerator, as family photos held by magnets trembled with my quickened breathing, their smiling faces bearing witness to the moment boundaries began dissolving. We can't do this, I whispered without conviction, the token protest undermined by my body's betrayal, pupils dilating, pulse quickening, breath catching as he moved imperceptibly closer. We already are, Tyler countered, his hand rising to brush a strand of hair from my face, the simple gesture igniting nerve endings starved for genuine touch. His fingers lingered at my temple, tracing a path to my jawline with exquisite slowness, each millimeter of contact breaking down years of carefully constructed walls around my emotional core. The sound of a door opening upstairs shattered the moment, reality intruding as footsteps padded toward the bathroom. "Good night, Sarah," Tyler whispered, stepping back with visible reluctance, his retreat both relief and disappointment as the spell between us temporarily broke under the weight of external reality. Sleep evaded me that night as I lay beside James, who had returned home well after midnight, smelling of scotch and wearing the emotional distance that had become his constant companion. My mind replayed kitchen moments on endless loop. Tyler's proximity, the electricity of almost touch, the dangerous truth that I wanted what I shouldn't want with an intensity that terrified me. Morning arrived with fresh snow blanketing the neighborhood in deceptive purity, the pristine white covering all evidence of yesterday's footprints. I stood at the kitchen window clutching coffee, watching neighborhood children build snowmen while contemplating how easily boundaries could shift overnight, how quickly moral certainty could transform into situational ethics when emotional starvation met genuine connection. Beautiful, isn't it? Tyler's voice behind me shattered my contemplation. His early appearance in the kitchen before others awakened, creating dangerous opportunity. His presence in rumpled sleep clothes, faded university t-shirt and flannel pants, riding low on narrow hips, humanized him beyond intellectual connection, adding physical awareness that complicated already complex emotions swirling between us. I maintained physical distance while pouring him coffee, our fingers carefully avoiding contact during the exchange. "James mentioned taking everyone sledding at Riverside Park today," I commented, introducing family plans as a shield against the intimacy threatening to envelop us in the quiet morning kitchen. "And will you join the sledding expedition?" Tyler inquired, blue eyes studying me over his coffee rim with unsettling perception. His question carried layers, asking not just about recreational plans, but whether I would continue hiding behind family activities to avoid confronting what was developing between us with increasing momentum. The sound of the garage door opening announced James's departure without goodbye. Early Saturday meetings taking precedence over family time as they had for years. "He won't actually take them sledding," I admitted, the simple truth carrying years of disappointment as promises made to children were routinely sacrificed on the altar of career advancement. Tyler's expression reflected understanding without pity, his perception of my marriage clearer than I'd realized. "Then perhaps we should take them instead," he suggested, the simple solution creating both relief and anxiety, grateful for his consideration of the children while terrified of spending hours in his company with family present, yet oblivious. The sledding expedition materialized, despite my reservations, with Lisa enthusiastically gathering scarves and gloves while Mia and Ethan expressed surprised delight at the rare family outing. Snow crunched beneath boots as we trekked through Riverside Park, Tyler pulling the wooden sled containing thermoses of hot chocolate and extra blankets, his thoughtfulness highlighting through action what James demonstrated through absence. "Race you to the bottom," Tyler challenged Ethan, their competitive spirits creating genuine laughter that echoed across the snow-covered hillside. Their easy camaraderie twisted something in my chest, witnessing the male bonding my son craved, but rarely received from his father, the simple joy of shared experience that had vanished from our family dynamic years earlier. Lisa linked arms with me as we watched them from the hilltop, her sisterly perception momentarily terrifying as she studied my expression. "Tyler seems different around you," she observed casually, her comment landing like a stone in still water, ripples of panic spreading through my carefully maintained composure. "Different how?" I managed, focusing on adjusting my scarf rather than meeting her analytical gaze. Her observation created immediate defensive posture, shoulders tensing, breath shortening, mind racing through recent interactions, cataloging moments that might have revealed the dangerous current flowing beneath innocent family gatherings. Every choice has its tipping point, a moment when seemingly innocent decisions accumulate into irreversible change. Before judging my story, ask yourself what boundaries might blur if emotional starvation met genuine connection when no one was watching your desperate search for meaning. Hit the notification bell on RE True Stories, so you're not the last to know how these secrets unravel and destroy the lives they touch. But secrets have a way of revealing themselves at the worst possible moment, when you're most vulnerable and least prepared for the consequences that follow exposure. The sledding expedition concluded, with rosy cheeks and genuine laughter, a rare moment of family cohesion that felt both precious and precarious. Back home, Lisa announced plans to take Mia and Ethan to the Holiday Light Festival downtown, her invitation extended to everyone, though her eyes registered no surprise when I declined, citing the mountain of laundry awaiting attention. "I'll stay and help Aunt Sarah," Tyler offered casually, his simple statement creating immediate tension as Lisa's gaze flickered between us momentarily. The silence stretched a beat too long before she nodded acceptance, her maternal instincts perhaps sensing undercurrents, but finding no concrete reason to object to her adult son assisting with household chores. Their departure left the house in sudden dangerous silence, empty rooms expanding with possibility as the front door clicked shut. "You didn't have to stay," I stated, gathering scattered gloves and scarves while maintaining careful distance from Tyler's magnetic presence in the entryway. "I wanted to," he replied simply, the 3 words carrying weight far beyond their syllables as he helped hang wet coat, His admission stripped away pretense, acknowledgement that choices were being made consciously, rather than accidentally, that moments alone together were being deliberately created rather than merely accepted. The laundry room provided temporary sanctuary, its confined space and mundane purpose grounding me in domestic reality rather than dangerous possibility. I sorted darks from lights with methodical precision, focusing on fabric rather than the awareness of Tyler leaning against the doorframe, watching my movements with undisguised interest that sent heat crawling beneath my skin. "I should shower before starting this load," I announced, the practical statement creating immediate imagery I hadn't intended, my cheeks flushing as Tyler's eyebrow raised slightly. The simple domestic declaration suddenly carried unintended invitation, the mention of showering creating immediate awareness of bodies and nakedness and water cascading over skin. Tyler nodded without comment, stepping aside to allow my passage through the doorway, the narrow space requiring me to brush past him. The brief contact, shoulder against chest, hip momentarily aligned with his sent electricity, through nerve endings that had forgotten how to respond to proximity, my body betraying my mind's desperate warnings about boundaries and consequences. The master bathroom offered temporary escape, steam from the shower filling the space as I stripped away layers of winter clothing. Water cascaded over tense shoulders as I closed my eyes, attempting to wash away inappropriate thoughts along with the day's exertions. The rhythmic drumming against tile created white noise that temporarily drowned the internal debate raging between desire and propriety. Time lost meaning under the shower's hypnotic spell, muscles gradually relaxing as water temperature slowly cooled from scalding to merely warm. My fingers traced soap patterns across skin that felt increasingly sensitized, nerve endings awakening after years of dormancy, body remembering sensations long forgotten during my marriage's slow emotional death. The bathroom door's subtle creak barely registered through the shower's steady drumming, the sound processing seconds after it occurred. My eyes flew open as realization dawned. Someone had entered the bathroom despite the closed door, despite the obvious sounds of running water indicating occupation. Steam had fogged the glass shower enclosure, creating merciful opacity that concealed specific details while revealing general form. Through the clouded barrier, Tyler's silhouette remained motionless in the doorway, his presence both intrusion and invitation, as seconds stretched between us like taffy, neither advancing nor retreating, as possibility crystallized in the steam-filled space. "I should go?" he stated, voice barely audible above water's steady rhythm. Yet his feet remained rooted to tile flooring. His hesitation created choice where none should exist. The power to dismiss or invite now resting entirely with me as water continued cascading over increasingly sensitized skin. "Or you could stay," I heard myself respond, the words emerging from some primal place beyond rational thought or social convention. The invitation hung in steam-laden air between us, irrevocable once spoken, crossing a line that transformed theoretical attraction into potential action with consequences neither fully comprehended in that pivotal moment. Tyler's hand rose to the shower door handle. Hesitating there as final chance for retreat presented itself to both of us. The simple brass fixture gleamed under bathroom lighting, becoming focal point for the moral crossroads we faced. His fingers neither advancing nor retreating, as seconds stretched into small eternities of possibility. The shower door opened with deliberate slowness, steam escaping in curling tendrils around Tyler's form as he stood fully clothed before my naked vulnerability. His gaze traveled my exposed body with reverence rather than mere lust, the appreciation in his eyes awakening parts of me that had withered under years of my husband's indifference. "Are you certain?" he whispered, remaining outside the shower's spray, offering final opportunity to retreat from the precipice we approached together. His restraint, asking permission rather than assuming consent, only intensified the magnetic pull between us, his respect for boundaries even as we prepared to shatter them completely, adding emotional complexity to physical desire. Words failed as answer, my hand extending instead to draw him forward, unconcerned with the fabric now darkening under shower spray. The simple action bridged remaining distance between contemplation and action, between fantasy and reality, between the woman I had been and the one emerging from chrysalis of propriety into something unrecognizable yet authentically alive. Water soaked through Tyler's clothing, plastering fabric against muscle as he stepped fully into the shower's embrace without breaking eye contact. The absurdity him fully dressed while I stood naked created momentary laughter that dissolved tension, transforming forbidden into almost playful as his sodden shirt clung to contours I had imagined but never seen. "This is insane," I whispered. Reality briefly reasserting itself through fog of desire, as water continued cascading over both of us. The statement acknowledged the magnitude of boundaries being crossed. Family ties, age differences, marriage vows, yet did nothing to diminish the gravitational pull between our bodies as space between us diminished to mere inches. "Probably," Tyler agreed. Hands rising to frame my face with exquisite gentleness that contrasted with the storm of desire evident in dilated pupils. His touch, reverent yet confident, awakened nerve endings long dormant. His thumbs tracing cheekbones with deliberate slowness that acknowledged the significance of what we contemplated. The first kiss landed softly. Question rather than demand, giving opportunity for retreat, that neither wanted, as water created baptism of sorts, washing away personas of aunt and nephew, leaving simply man and woman standing at crossroads of desire and consequence. The gentle press of lips quickly transformed as years of emotional starvation met genuine connection, restraint dissolving under the alchemy of touch and need. Hands explored with increasing urgency, his discovering curves long neglected, mine mapping muscles beneath sodden fabric that created frustrating barrier. "Too many clothes," I murmured against his mouth, fingers fumbling with buttons suddenly complicated by water and trembling, and the disorienting reality of crossing lines never meant to be approached. Tyler stepped back slightly, eyes holding mine as he stripped away layers with efficient movements that revealed golden skin and defined muscle beneath. His body, younger, firmer than my husband's, created momentary hesitation as insecurity flickered through my consciousness, awareness of age differences and imperfections suddenly acute under bathroom lighting. "You're beautiful," he whispered, reading my thoughts with unsettling accuracy, hands returning to trace curves with appreciation that banished self-doubt, his touch confident without being presumptuous, awakened responses I'd forgotten my body capable of producing, each caress rebuilding connection between physical sensation and emotional awareness. Long severed in my marriage. Water temperature gradually cooled as minutes passed in exploration and discovery, goosebumps rising on wet skin creating new textures beneath wandering fingertips. "Perhaps we should continue this somewhere more comfortable," Tyler suggested, practical consideration interrupting passion's momentum without diminishing its intensity. The master bedroom presented moral crossroads more definitive than shower's spontaneity, deliberate choice to enter marital space with another creating boundary impossible to uncross once traversed. I hesitated at threshold, towel clutched to chest as final opportunity for retreat presented itself, awareness of potential consequences momentarily outweighing desire's insistent pull. "We don't have to do this," Tyler offered, respecting hesitation without pressuring resolution either direction. His patience allowing space for genuine choice rather than heat-of-moment decision, only intensified connection forming between us, respect for my agency, adding emotional dimension to physical attraction that complicated already complex situation. The sound of the garage door opening shattered the moment with brutal efficiency, reality intruding with mechanical precision as James returned home unexpectedly. Panic replaced passion instantly as we froze in horrified tableau, me in towel, Tyler shirtless and dripping. The unmistakable evidence of lines crossed impossible to explain away through convenient fiction. "Bathroom, now," I hissed, shoving Tyler toward the ensuite, as footsteps sounded on the stairs, heart hammering against ribs with such force I feared it might shatter bone. The frantic scramble gathering discarded clothing, wiping evidence of wet footprints from hardwood, created surreal counterpoint to intimate exploration moments earlier, fear replacing desire with whiplash intensity. In that moment, I could feel the world tilt beneath my feet. Everything I thought I knew about myself dissolving like sugar in rain. What happened next would permanently alter the foundation of our family, leaving nothing and no one unchanged by the consequences of choices made in steam-filled vulnerability. James's footsteps echoed on the stairs as I frantically secured my robe, heart hammering against ribs with such force I feared he might hear it. The bathroom door clicked shut behind Tyler, just as my husband appeared in the bedroom doorway, his expression unreadable as he surveyed my damp hair and flushed cheeks with unusual attentiveness. "You're home early," I managed, voice pitched slightly higher than normal as I busied myself with hairbrush, avoiding direct eye contact. The simple observation hung between us like smoke, neither accusation nor greeting but something uncomfortably between, my surprise at his presence, highlighting how accustomed we'd become to his absence. "Meeting cancelled," James replied, loosening his tie with practiced efficiency while his gaze swept the room, lingering momentarily on the wet footprints I'd failed to completely eliminate. His attention to detail, so rarely directed toward our relationship, now created immediate danger as his attorney's mind catalogued inconsistencies in the tableau before him. "Where is everyone?" he inquired, the casual question carrying undertones that raised hairs on my neck despite its innocuous surface. The simple inquiry created immediate panic. Explaining Lisa and the children's absence was simple, but accounting for Tyler's presence in our bathroom required fabrication beyond my current capabilities. "Lisa took the kids to the Holiday Light Festival downtown," I explained, focusing on truth while omitting crucial details, heart stuttering as water pipes groaned. Tyler adjusting the shower temperature and hiding, the household sound never previously noteworthy now, screamed evidence of another presence, my eyes darting involuntarily toward the bathroom door before I could control the telling reaction. James paused, head tilting slightly as he processed the bathroom noises, his expression shifting from neutral to puzzled. "Is someone else here?" he asked directly. Lawyer's precision cutting through pretense with surgical efficiency, creating immediate crisis as plausible explanations evaporated under the heat of direct questioning. "Tyler stayed behind to help with laundry," I admitted, clinging to partial truth while my mind raced through possible explanations for his current location. The statement itself contained no lies yet created foundation for deception through omission, failing to explain why my nephew now occupied our private bathroom while I stood disheveled in hastily secured robe. James's eyebrows rose slightly, the subtle shift expressing more than words as he processed this information with newfound interest. "And where is Tyler now?" he inquired, voice deceptively casual, while his eyes remained sharp, assessing my response with courtroom scrutiny that stripped away pretense. The bathroom door opened before I could fabricate response. Tyler emerging with towel secured around his waist, water droplets still clinging to bare shoulders. His appearance clearly post-shower rather than mid-laundry assistance, created immediate tableau impossible to explain away through convenient fiction, the evidence of boundaries crossed displayed in physical proximity and state of undress. "Uncle James," Tyler acknowledged, voice admirably steady despite the circumstances, chin lifting slightly in subtle defiance rather than shame. His composure, maintaining eye contact rather than adopting guilty posture, created strange counterpoint to my internal collapse, his refusal to cower somehow both admirable and terrifying, as consequences crystallized between us. Silence expanded like poison gas, filling every corner of the bedroom as James's gaze traveled between us with methodical precision. The absence of immediate explosion proved more terrifying than shouted accusations, his attorney's calculation evident as he processed the scene with disturbing calm rather than reactive emotion. "I see," he finally stated, two simple syllables containing multitudes: acknowledgement, assessment, and something unexpected that resembled relief rather than rage. His reaction, or rather the conspicuous absence of expected reaction, created disorientation more profound than anger would have produced, the script of confrontation suddenly rewritten without warning. "James, I can explain," I began automatically, the cliched phrase emerging despite its inadequacy, despite the obvious impossibility of explaining away the tableau before him. The desperate attempt to control narrative even when caught red-handed, revealed more about my character than the transgression itself, the instinct to manage perception overriding honesty even in crisis. "Can you?" he countered, voice holding curiosity rather than venom, as he loosened his tie completely, removing it with deliberate movements that commanded attention. His calm created immediate unease, the absence of expected rage suggesting either shock or something far more complicated, unfolding behind his carefully controlled expression. Tyler shifted his weight, water droplets tracking paths down his chest as uncomfortable silence stretched between us. "I should get dressed," he stated. The practical observation highlighting the absurdity of our situation, family drama unfolding, while he stood nearly naked in his uncle's bedroom. Physical vulnerability contrasting with emotional exposure we all now faced. "That would be appropriate," James agreed, stepping aside to allow Tyler passage toward the guest room, his courtesy bizarrely intact despite circumstances that should have shattered social niceties. His restraint, maintaining civility when discovery justified explosion, created cognitive dissonance that left me unmoored, unable to process this deviation from expected consequences. The bedroom door closed behind Tyler with quiet finality, leaving James and me alone in aftermath of exposure. Truth hanging between us like visible entity. 23 years, he stated simply, moving to sit on the edge of the bed we'd shared through decades of increasing emotional distance. "I never meant for this to happen," I whispered, the inadequate explanation falling flat even to my own ears as I clutched my robe tighter. The cliched response highlighted the absurdity of our situation, attempting to apply conventional apologies to unconventional betrayal, as though standard phrases could possibly address the magnitude of boundaries crossed. James laughed, a short, hollow sound entirely devoid of humor that raised goosebumps along my arms. "No one ever means for their marriage to fail," he observed with clinical detachment that suggested emotional distance far predating this moment of crisis. His philosophical approach, analyzing rather than reacting, created unsettling dynamic where roles of wronged and wrongdoer blurred beyond recognition. "Aren't you angry?" I asked directly, his calm more terrifying than rage would have been, his restraint suggesting complexities I couldn't yet comprehend. The question emerged from genuine confusion rather than desire for conflict, his reaction defying every expectation, creating disorientation more profound than shouted accusations would have produced. "I'm many things, Sarah. But surprised isn't one of them," James replied, fingers tracing patterns on the duvet cover rather than meeting my eyes. His statement created immediate shift in power dynamics, suggesting knowledge or suspicion predating discovery, implying awareness I hadn't credited him with possessing during our years of emotional estrangement. The front door opened downstairs, voices and laughter, announcing the family's return with devastating timing. "We should continue this conversation later," James stated, standing with sudden energy that suggested relief at interruption rather than frustration. His willingness to postpone confrontation created new anxiety, the delayed reckoning hanging over future interactions like guillotine blade suspended by increasingly fraying rope. Dinner materialized through mechanical motions. Pasta boiling, sauce warming, bread sliced, as I moved through kitchen routines on autopilot. The mundane tasks created illusion of normalcy while internal landscape shifted, like tectonic plates. Everything familiar suddenly foreign as consequences rippled outward from bathroom encounter with increasing magnitude. Lisa chatted about holiday lights while James maintained polite interest, his performance of engaged husband creating uncanny valley effect, close enough to normal to pass casual inspection yet fundamentally wrong in ways only I could perceive. Tyler remained conspicuously silent throughout meal preparation, his usual animated presence replaced by careful movements and averted eyes that screamed guilt to anyone paying attention. "Tyler, would you pass the Parmesan?" James requested, the ordinary dinner table interaction creating immediate tension as my nephew's hand trembled slightly during the exchange. The simple request, mundane under normal circumstances, now carried weight of knowledge between them, transforming casual interaction into loaded exchange visible only to those aware of bathroom discovery. Mia and Ethan remained oblivious, teenage self-absorption creating merciful buffer against adult undercurrents swirling around the dining table. Their animated descriptions of downtown decorations filled silence that might otherwise have revealed fault lines forming beneath family foundation, their innocence highlighting by contrast the corruption of trust occurring around them. "Sarah seems tired tonight," Lisa observed with sisterly concern, her perception creating immediate panic as I struggled to maintain composed expression. Her comment, innocent yet dangerously perceptive, directed unwanted attention toward my disheveled emotional state, creating risk of exposure beyond the three already aware of afternoon's transgression. Just holiday fatigue, I dismissed with forced lightness, avoiding Tyler's gaze across cranberry sauce and dinner rolls. The casual lie emerged with disturbing ease, creating foundation for deception that would require increasingly complex fabrications to maintain, as consequences continued unfolding from single moment of weakness. James watched this exchange with unsettling intensity, his fork pausing midway to mouth as his gaze traveled between Tyler and me with analytical precision. His observation attorney's attention to detail, now focused on family dynamics rather than legal briefs, created immediate discomfort, his silence more damning than accusations as he catalogued telling microexpressions neither Tyler nor I could fully control. Perhaps an early night would help, he suggested, the solicitous recommendation carrying layers of meaning only the three of us could interpret. His consideration, publicly supporting my excuse while privately acknowledging its falsity, created cognitive dissonance that left me increasingly unmoored, unable to process this deviation from expected consequences. How many of us have tried hiding our worst mistakes, only to watch them echo louder in silence between casual dinner conversations? The weight of secrets creates unbearable pressure, transforming ordinary interactions into minefields where every word, every glance might trigger devastating exposure. Comment below if you've ever carried a secret you thought no one would discover, and subscribe to Ari True Stories, so you never miss the confessions that remind us we're not alone. Our darkest moments often reveal truths about ourselves we've spent lifetimes avoiding, illuminating parts of our character we never wanted to acknowledge existed. Beneath carefully constructed personas, dishes clattered in the sink as I scrubbed with unnecessary vigor, the mundane task providing temporary escape from the suffocating tension permeating every corner of the house. The family had dispersed after dinner, Lisa helping Mia with holiday gift wrapping, Ethan retreating to video games, Tyler conspicuously absent, leaving me alone with thoughts that circled like vultures over the carcass of my self-image. The wedding band on my finger caught light from overhead fixtures, gold gleaming accusingly as water sluiced over metal that had adorned my hand for 23 years. I remembered standing before friends and family, voice steady as I promised fidelity through better or worse, the conviction in my younger self's tone, contrasting sharply with the woman I'd become, someone capable of betraying not just marriage vows but fundamental family boundaries. My reflection fractured in soap bubbles rising from dishwater, distorting features into unrecognizable patterns that somehow seemed more accurate than mirrors. The fragmented image matched my splintered self-perception. Wife, mother, sister, adulterer, roles that had once existed in careful balance, now collapsing into chaos after one moment of weakness had exposed fault lines running deeper than I'd acknowledged. If I could trade anything to undo this afternoon, I whispered to empty kitchen walls, the unfinished thought hanging in air like visible entity. The terrible truth crystallized with brutal clarity. Despite guilt crushing my chest, despite shame burning my cheeks, despite consequences threatening everything stable in my life, part of me couldn't honestly wish to erase what had happened with Tyler. The bathroom encounter had awakened something beyond mere physical pleasure, beyond forbidden excitement of taboo connection. Those moments of vulnerability had shattered years of emotional numbness, cracking open calcified layers of self-protection to reveal the woman buried beneath roles and responsibilities, someone capable of feeling intensely rather than merely functioning efficiently. Water drained from the sink in spiraling vortex, mirroring the downward trajectory of my moral certainty as I dried hands on dish towel embroidered with our family name. The simple domestic object, wedding gift from James's mother, created fresh wave of shame as I imagined her reaction to today's events, her traditional values leaving no room for nuanced understanding of emotional starvation or gradual marital death. My childhood pastor's voice echoed through memory, stern warnings about temptation leading to sin leading to destruction, the slippery slope argument suddenly concrete rather than theoretical. His black and white morality offered no accommodation for gray areas where good people make devastating choices, where loneliness might drive behavior previously unimaginable, where connection might temporarily outweigh convention in moments of desperate hunger. The kitchen window reflected nighttime darkness, transforming glass into mirror that captured my haunted expression as I stared into middle distance. The woman gazing back appeared simultaneously familiar and foreign, same features I'd known for 45 years now, rearranged by experience into someone I barely recognized, someone capable of actions I'd previously judged harshly in others. James appeared in the doorway without warning, his silent approach startling me from introspection, as wine glass clinked against granite countertop. "We need to talk," he stated simply, voice devoid of emotion as he gestured toward his home office, the space where he handled family finances and legal matters, its selection for our conversation highlighting the transactional approach he intended to take. The office door closed behind us with quiet finality, leather chairs creaking as we settled into positions reminiscent of client consultations rather than marital discussions. His professional space, diplomas adorning walls, law books lining shelves, created immediate power imbalance, positioning me as defendant rather than equal as he folded hands on polished desk between us. "I've suspected for some time that you were unhappy," James began, surprising me with his opening gambit addressing emotional state rather than transgression itself. His observation created immediate disorientation, the conversation veering from expected script of accusation and defense into territory more nuanced than anticipated, suggesting awareness I hadn't credited him with possessing. "How could you know when you're never here?" I countered, defensive response emerging before I could temper it with diplomacy or contrition. The accusation, accurate yet unfair given circumstances, revealed my instinct to deflect responsibility even when caught red-handed, to distribute blame rather than accept full accountability for choices made consciously rather than accidentally. James nodded as though my response confirmed some private theory, fingers steepled beneath his chin in courtroom gesture I'd witnessed during rare occasions observing his professional performance. "Physical absence doesn't equate to emotional blindness," he stated with unsettling perception, his insight creating fresh discomfort as I realized how thoroughly I'd underestimated his awareness of our marital deterioration. "I never intended to hurt you," I offered, the inadequate platitude falling flat even to my own ears as I twisted wedding band unconsciously. The cliched response highlighted the absurdity of our situation, attempting to apply conventional apologies to unconventional betrayal, as though standard phrases could possibly address the magnitude of boundaries crossed. "Intentions rarely matter as much as actions," James replied, attorney's precision cutting through emotional fog with clinical efficiency, his statement factually accurate, yet emotionally detached, exemplified the fundamental disconnect that had gradually eroded our marriage. His analytical approach to human connection creating canyon neither of us had successfully bridged in years. Silence expanded between us, filling office corners with unspoken accusations and explanations too complex for simple articulation. The absence of expected rage continued creating cognitive dissonance, his calm suggesting either emotional detachment so complete it precluded jealousy, or something far more complicated unfolding behind carefully controlled expression. "Are you in love with him?" James inquired suddenly, the direct question shattering pretense with surgical precision. His query created immediate crisis, forcing confrontation with feelings I'd barely begun processing myself, demanding definition of connection formed through emotional vulnerability rather than extended courtship. "I barely understand what happened myself," I admitted, honesty emerging from exhaustion rather than virtue as pretense became too heavy to maintain. The confession, acknowledging confusion rather than offering clarity, created strange relief. The burden of perfect understanding temporarily lifted as I allowed myself to inhabit the messy reality of human complexity. James nodded again, expression suggesting neither surprise nor judgment, but something closer to recognition. "Our marriage died years ago, Sarah," he stated with quiet certainty that brooked no argument, his assessment creating strange relief rather than pain. Acknowledgement of reality, we'd both recognized, but neither had voiced aloud. "Then why stay?" I challenged, genuine curiosity replacing defensive posture as conversation shifted from expected confrontation to something resembling honest exchange. The question addressed fundamental mystery, his continued presence in relationship clearly unsatisfying to both parties, his acceptance of emotional distance that had transformed marriage into business arrangement with occasional physical benefits. Convenience, habit, children, finances. The usual suspects. James replied with unexpected candor, his honesty creating momentary connection more genuine than anything we'd shared in years. His admission acknowledging practical rather than passionate reasons for continuing our union created level playing field where neither could claim moral high ground in relationship. Both had failed to nurture. "What happens now?" I asked, practical question emerging from emotional quagmire, as reality reasserted itself through logistics. The inquiry addressed immediate concerns rather than philosophical implications. Household arrangements, family notifications, financial considerations, suddenly requiring attention, as marriage facade crumbled under weight of exposed truth. James leaned back in leather chair, fingers drumming momentarily on polished desk surface before responding with measured precision. "That depends entirely on what you want, Sarah," he replied, placing decision-making responsibilities squarely on my shoulders rather than imposing his preferences or demands. The question, "What did I want?" created immediate vertigo as possibilities previously unimaginable suddenly materialized with startling clarity. Freedom from emotional desert. Our marriage had become opportunity to rediscover passion and connection, chance to live authentically rather than performing roles that had gradually hollowed me from inside out. Options simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating as they crystallized in consciousness. "And Tyler?" I ventured cautiously, the name itself creating immediate tension as it acknowledged elephant occupying every room in our house. The question addressed immediate concern rather than long-term planning. His presence creating complications beyond marital dissolution, family relationships threatened by boundaries already irreparably crossed. "He's 24, Sarah, an adult capable of making his own decisions, however questionable they might appear to others," James observed with surprising neutrality. His response, neither condemning nor condoning, created space for complexity rather than simplistic moral judgment, his legal training perhaps allowing nuanced perspective, where others might see only black and white transgression. "They say confession cleanses the soul, unburdening the spirit through honest acknowledgement of wrongdoing and sincere contrition." But as I sat across from my husband discussing the potential end of our marriage after being discovered with his nephew, I wondered whether some stains remain permanently embedded in fabric of character, visible always to those who know where to look. Dishes clattered in the sink, as I scrubbed with unnecessary vigor, the mundane task providing temporary escape from the suffocating tension permeating every corner of the house. The family had dispersed after dinner, Lisa helping Mia with holiday gift wrapping, Ethan retreating to video games, Tyler conspicuously absent, leaving me alone with thoughts that circled like vultures over the carcass of my self-image. The wedding band on my finger caught light from overhead fixtures, gold gleaming accusingly as water sluiced over metal that had adorned my hand for 23 years. I remembered standing before friends and family, voice steady as I promised fidelity through better or worse. The conviction in my younger self's tone, contrasting sharply with the woman I'd become. Someone capable of betraying not just marriage vows, but fundamental family boundaries. My reflection fractured in soap bubbles rising from dishwater, distorting features into unrecognizable patterns that somehow seemed more accurate than mirrors. The fragmented image matched my splintered self-perception. Wife, mother, sister, adulterer, roles that had once existed in careful balance, now collapsing into chaos after one moment of weakness had exposed fault lines running deeper than I'd acknowledged. "If I could trade anything to undo this afternoon," I whispered to empty kitchen walls, the unfinished thought hanging in air like visible entity. The terrible truth crystallized with brutal clarity. Despite guilt crushing my chest, despite shame burning my cheeks, despite consequences threatening everything stable in my life, part of me couldn't honestly wish to erase what had happened with Tyler. The bathroom encounter had awakened something beyond mere physical pleasure, beyond forbidden excitement of taboo connection. Those moments of vulnerability had shattered years of emotional numbness, cracking open calcified layers of self-protection to reveal the woman buried beneath roles and responsibilities, someone capable of feeling intensely rather than merely functioning efficiently. Water drained from the sink in spiraling vortex, mirroring the downward trajectory of my moral certainty as I dried hands on dish towel embroidered with our family name. The simple domestic object, wedding gift from James's mother, created fresh wave of shame as I imagined her reaction to today's events, her traditional values leaving no room for nuanced understanding of emotional starvation or gradual marital death. My childhood pastor's voice echoed through memory, stern warnings about temptation leading to sin leading to destruction, the slippery slope argument suddenly concrete rather than theoretical. His black and white morality offered no accommodation for gray areas where good people make devastating choices, where loneliness might drive behavior previously unimaginable, where connection might temporarily outweigh convention in moments of desperate hunger. The kitchen window reflected nighttime darkness, transforming glass into mirror that captured my haunted expression as I stared into middle distance. The woman gazing back appeared simultaneously familiar and foreign. Same features I'd known for 45 years now, rearranged by experience into someone I barely recognized, someone capable of actions I'd previously judged harshly in others. James appeared in the doorway without warning, his silent approach startling me from introspection as wine glass clinked against granite countertop. "We need to talk," he stated simply, voice devoid of emotion as he gestured toward his home office, the space where he handled family finances and legal matters, its selection for our conversation highlighting the transactional approach he intended to take. The office door closed behind us with quiet finality, leather chairs creaking as we settled into positions reminiscent of client consultations rather than marital discussions. His professional space, diplomas adorning walls, law books lining shelves, created immediate power imbalance, positioning me as defendant rather than equal as he folded hands on polished desk between us. "I've suspected for some time that you were unhappy," James began, surprising me with his opening gambit, addressing emotional state rather than transgression itself. His observation created immediate disorientation, the conversation veering from expected script of accusation and defense into territory more nuanced than anticipated, suggesting awareness I hadn't credited him with possessing. "How could you know when you're never here?" I countered, defensive response emerging before I could temper it with diplomacy or contrition. The accusation, accurate yet unfair given circumstances, revealed my instinct to deflect responsibility even when caught red-handed, to distribute blame rather than accept full accountability for choices made consciously rather than accidentally. James nodded, as though my response confirmed some private theory, fingers steepled beneath his chin in courtroom gesture I'd witnessed during rare occasions observing his professional performance. "Physical absence doesn't equate to emotional blindness," he stated with unsettling perception, his insight creating fresh discomfort as I realized how thoroughly I'd underestimated his awareness of our marital deterioration. "I never intended to hurt you," I offered, the inadequate platitude falling flat even to my own ears as I twisted wedding band unconsciously. The cliched response highlighted the absurdity of our situation, attempting to apply conventional apologies to unconventional betrayal, as though standard phrases could possibly address the magnitude of boundaries crossed. "Intentions rarely matter as much as actions," James replied, attorney's precision cutting through emotional fog with clinical efficiency. His statement, factually accurate yet emotionally detached, exemplified the fundamental disconnect that had gradually eroded our marriage. His analytical approach to human connection creating canyon neither of us had successfully bridged in years. Silence expanded between us, filling office corners with unspoken accusations and explanations too complex for simple articulation. The absence of expected rage continued creating cognitive dissonance, his calm suggesting either emotional detachment so complete it precluded jealousy, or something far more complicated unfolding behind carefully controlled expression. "Are you in love with him?" James inquired suddenly, the direct question shattering pretense with surgical precision. His query created immediate crisis, forcing confrontation with feelings I'd barely begun processing myself, demanding definition of connection formed through emotional vulnerability rather than extended courtship. "I barely understand what happened myself," I admitted, honesty emerging from exhaustion rather than virtue as pretense became too heavy to maintain. The confession acknowledging confusion rather than offering clarity created strange relief. The burden of perfect understanding temporarily lifted, as I allowed myself to inhabit the messy reality of human complexity. James nodded again, expression suggesting neither surprise nor judgment, but something closer to recognition. "Our marriage died years ago, Sarah," he stated with quiet certainty that brooked no argument, his assessment creating strange relief rather than pain, acknowledgement of reality. We'd both recognized, but neither had voiced aloud. "Then why stay?" I challenged, genuine curiosity replacing defensive posture as conversation shifted from expected confrontation to something resembling honest exchange. The question addressed fundamental mystery, his continued presence in relationship clearly unsatisfying to both parties, his acceptance of emotional distance that had transformed marriage into business arrangement with occasional physical benefits. Convenience, habit, children, finances. The usual suspects. James replied, with unexpected candor, his honesty creating momentary connection more genuine than anything we'd shared in years. His admission, acknowledging practical rather than passionate reasons for continuing our union, created level playing field where neither could claim moral high ground in relationship both had failed to nurture. "What happens now?" I asked. Practical question emerging from emotional quagmire as reality reasserted itself through logistics. The inquiry addressed immediate concerns rather than philosophical implications. Household arrangements, family notifications, financial considerations, suddenly requiring attention as marriage facade crumbled under weight of exposed truth. James leaned back in leather chair, fingers drumming momentarily on polished desk surface, before responding with measured precision. "That depends entirely on what you want, Sarah," he replied, placing decision-making responsibilities squarely on my shoulders rather than imposing his preferences or demands. The question, "What did I want?" created immediate vertigo as possibilities previously unimaginable suddenly materialized with startling clarity. Freedom from emotional desert our marriage had become. Opportunity to rediscover passion and connection, chance to live authentically, rather than performing roles that had gradually hollowed me from inside out. Options simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating as they crystallized in consciousness. "And Tyler?" I ventured cautiously, the name itself creating immediate tension as it acknowledged elephant occupying every room in our house. The question addressed immediate concern rather than long-term planning, his presence creating complications beyond marital dissolution, family relationships threatened by boundaries already irreparably crossed. "He's 24, Sarah, an adult capable of making his own decisions, however questionable they might appear to others," James observed with surprising neutrality. His response, neither condemning nor condoning, created space for complexity rather than simplistic moral judgment, his legal training perhaps allowing nuanced perspective, where others might see only black and white transgression. "They say confession cleanses the soul, unburdening the spirit through honest acknowledgement of wrongdoing and sincere contrition." But as I sat across from my husband discussing the potential end of our marriage after being discovered with his nephew, I wondered whether some stains remain permanently embedded in fabric of character, visible always to those who know where to look. The carolers departed after hot chocolate and forced holiday cheer, leaving emotional debris in their wake as family members retreated to separate corners. Tyler's continued phone vigilance created mounting tension, each notification drawing his immediate attention followed by troubled expression that suggested external complications multiplying beyond our control. Lisa cornered him in the hallway outside the guest bathroom, her voice carrying despite lowered volume as maternal concern overrode social niceties. "You've been acting strange since yesterday. Barely speaking, checking your phone constantly, suddenly inventing research deadlines during family holiday," she confronted, listing behavioral changes with prosecutorial precision that left little room for continued evasion. "It's nothing, Mom," Tyler insisted unconvincingly, his usual eloquence abandoned for adolescent dismissal that only heightened suspicion. His defensive posture, shoulders hunched, eyes avoiding direct contact, contradicted verbal reassurance, body language screaming discomfort his words attempted to deny. "Don't insult my intelligence," Lisa countered, parental authority asserting itself despite her son's adult status. Her tone shifted from concern to determination, creating immediate crisis as Tyler's carefully maintained facade began crumbling under direct confrontation from the person who knew him best. I froze in the adjacent dining room, silverware arrangement abandoned as their conversation penetrated thin walls separating spaces. The private confrontation created immediate panic. Tyler's emotional state clearly deteriorating under pressure, his capacity for continued deception rapidly diminishing as maternal interrogation intensified. "Is this about Sarah?" Lisa asked suddenly, her intuitive leap creating immediate cardiac arrhythmia as I clutched table edge for support. The direct question shattered pretense with devastating accuracy, maternal instinct cutting through layers of deception to identify connection. Neither Tyler nor I had successfully concealed, despite careful performance. Tyler's silence provided damning confirmation, the absence of immediate denial more revealing than any fabricated explanation could have been. The weighted pause stretched between mother and son, transforming theoretical suspicion into concrete certainty, as Lisa processed implications with visible distress evident in her sharp intake of breath. "What exactly is happening between you and my sister?" she demanded, voice rising despite obvious effort to maintain privacy. The direct question created immediate crisis point, moment of truth, literally and figuratively, as family secrets teetered on precipice of full exposure, consequences expanding exponentially with each person drawn into knowledge circle. James appeared in dining room doorway, his presence adding new dimension to unfolding drama as he registered my eavesdropping with raised eyebrow. His arrival created immediate decision point, whether to intervene in hallway confrontation or allow truth to emerge organically, whether to protect Tyler from his mother's interrogation or facilitate full disclosure regardless of emotional fallout. "Perhaps we should all discuss this together," he suggested with attorney's diplomacy. Voice pitched to carry into hallway without appearing intentionally intrusive, his proposal created immediate shift in power dynamics, moving private confrontation into communal space, transforming individual secrets into family matter requiring collective reckoning rather than isolated damage control. You think secrets can stay buried, but sometimes the cost of silence far exceeds the price of truth, no matter how painful that revelation might be. Like, share, and subscribe to Ari True Stories so you never make the same mistake I did, carrying burdens alone until they crush you beneath their weight. 6 months after that fateful holiday confrontation, I sat alone in my new apartment, surrounded by moving boxes containing fragments of previous life carefully sorted and divided. The modest 2-bedroom space represented both loss and liberation, smaller than the family home, yet somehow containing more oxygen, fewer square feet yet greater possibility for authentic existence. Lisa hadn't spoken to me since the family meeting where everything unraveled, her silence more devastating than shouted accusations would have been. Her boundary, absolute and unyielding, created permanent fracture in sibling relationship previously considered unbreakable, her maternal protection of Tyler ironically manifesting as complete severance from the sister who had complicated his life. Tyler had returned to graduate school immediately following our exposure, his hasty departure creating vacuum of unresolved emotions and unanswered questions. His occasional text messages, brief, cautious, increasingly infrequent, suggested internal struggle matching my own. His academic immersion providing temporary escape from family complications, while offering no permanent resolution to connection formed. Then, fractured, James had handled divorce proceedings with surprising generosity, his legal expertise streamlining process that might otherwise have descended into acrimony, his fairness dividing assets, equitably despite grounds for punitive approach, suggested understanding beyond conventional morality, his compassion creating space for mutual respect to survive even as marriage dissolved under weight of exposed truth. Mia and Ethan had processed the family implosion with typical teenage self-absorption initially masking deeper wounds. Their weekend visits to my apartment gradually evolved from awkward obligation to genuine connection, our conversations increasingly honest as parent-child dynamics shifted from authority figure to authentic human being, navigating complicated emotional terrain. Therapy became weekly anchor rather than temporary crisis intervention. Sessions creating space for examining patterns extending far beyond bathroom incident with Tyler. The guided introspection revealed childhood wounds, marital compromises, and identity sacrifices that had gradually hollowed me from inside out, creating perfect conditions for boundary collapse when genuine connection finally appeared. You're not defined by your worst decision, my therapist reminded during particularly difficult session focused on shame and self-forgiveness. Her perspective, neither condoning actions nor condemning character, created pathway through self-recrimination toward potential redemption, suggesting possibility of growth rather than permanent moral stagnation following significant transgression. Writing resumed after decades of creative dormancy, journal entries evolving into structured narrative exploring female desire, marital dissolution, and identity reclamation beyond traditional roles. The private creative practice, never intended for publication, provided processing mechanism for experiences too complex for casual conversation, transforming pain into meaning through deliberate examination rather than avoidance. Dating remained theoretical rather than practical, as internal landscape continued shifting beneath seemingly stable surface. The deliberate solitude, neither punishment nor fear but conscious choice, created space for self-rediscovery before attempting connection with others, preventing repetition of patterns that had contributed to both marital failure and boundary collapse with Tyler. Some regrets will linger for lifetime, persistent shadows accompanying even brightest moments of new beginning. Join us. Subscribe to RE True Stories, and ring that notification bell if you've ever carried burden of mistake you wish you could undo, but must instead incorporate into evolving understanding of your complex, imperfect humanity. Life rarely offers clean slates. Most of us must instead learn to live with the messes we make, incorporating mistakes into evolving identity rather than erasing them completely. My story contains no triumphant redemption arc or neat moral lesson. Only complicated human beings making flawed choices then navigating consequences with whatever wisdom they can muster in aftermath. The bathroom incident with Tyler. Moment of weakness that shattered family foundation. Neither defines me completely, nor can be entirely separated from who I am. That single decision revealed character flaws, requiring acknowledgement, while simultaneously creating opportunity for growth impossible within confines of performative perfection. I'd maintained for decades. Is forgiveness possible when trust has been irreparably damaged? Can authentic connection survive the honesty we most fear sharing with those whose opinions matter most? These questions remain partially unanswered as family relationships continue evolving, some strengthening through adversity, while others remain fractured perhaps permanently. My sister may never fully forgive my boundary transgression with her son, her maternal protection, creating distance that might never completely close despite blood connection. This permanent consequence, painful yet understandable, reminds me daily that actions create ripples extending far beyond momentary decisions, affecting relationships in ways impossible to fully anticipate during moments of weakness. What secrets might you be holding that simultaneously protect and imprison you? What masks have become so comfortable you've forgotten the face beneath them? What boundaries might you cross if emotional starvation met genuine connection when no one appeared to be watching?